Hello, everybody. Hello, my loves. I hope you guys are having an amazing day today. As always, I always hope you guys have an amazing day. But today, I want to talk about forgiving yourself when you are on this healing journey. And I want to talk about self forgiveness because it's really difficult. I feel like forgiving yourself, in my opinion, was harder than forgiving other people who have hurt me, because forgiving yourself means forgiving yourself for the person that you were before you've worked on yourself, before you did the inner work. Because in my experience, I don't resonate with who I used to be. And when I was younger, when I was a child, teenager, I had a lot of anger inside of me. All I've known was anger. I was brought up in an angry, violent household. Like, I just knew how to react by anger and yelling and violence, and I needed to rewire every single thing I thought I learned as a child growing up. And really, it really changed me, because I'm no longer the same person that I was. Like, I don't resonate with who I used to be. I can see that version of me, but I'm so far from who she used to be that, forgiving myself was very difficult, because I've always been a loving, kind person at heart. But when all you've known is violence and anger and yelling, that's how you react. And I was very toxic, and, I had abandonment issues, and there was just so much resentment inside of me that I just was so angry. I projected a lot of my insecurities on others, and there comes a point in your healing process where you face yourself. You face difficult parts of yourself that you didn't want to face before, because we tend to get embarrassed. We tend to, we regret hurting others. And that, to me, was one of the hardest things I had to do, was forgiving myself. And understanding that you probably, even though people cause trauma to you, you're probably a villain in somebody else's story. And you facing that and being okay with that. Like, we can't control how other people see us and feel us and if we've hurt them. And you have to be okay with being the villain in somebody else's story. And forgiving yourself is so complex, because it's that understanding of that, but then also the understanding of who you are now. Yes, we're not the same. Yes, we've grown so much, but there was a past version of us who harmed others. And it's hard, because you can't use the excuse like, oh, I'm not like that anymore, right? Because you did do what you've done, and you've probably hurt others and projected. So you did do that. Even though we don't resonate with that anymore, we did do that. And self-forgiveness is that understanding, and it hurts, because the me now would never, ever, ever hurt anybody. It breaks my heart. And the reason why was just, I was so hurt within myself. And so healing and forgiving yourself helps you understand how hurt you were. And the only reason why you acted the way that you did was because you were screaming for help and nobody heard you. And you were jealous of others who had things that you didn't. And it's just so much built up within you. You were just so hurt. And that's how I know when people try to hurt me or project onto me, or, people on social media who are bullies. Because I've been in that situation, I know exactly how they feel. I didn't love myself, and I didn't, I just wanted to hurt, I didn't want to hurt others, but the hurt inside of me just came out that way. I wanted to love others, but the hurt inside of me overcame that love and the anger. That all that came out was just hurt emotions. I just projected my hurt. And it sucked. But now that you've done the inner work, and when you are doing the inner work, forgiving yourself for hurting others is hard. Is super hard, because I can others that hurt me, I'm like, all right, it is what it is. And I'm not saying that, I've was totally crazy. It's just, I just projected my hurt and I feel bad. I honestly do. And there comes a point where, like, I've apologized, and you can apologize over and over and try to prove, like, hey, that version of me was just had so much trauma, and even though I was a kid, like, I just didn't know any better. That was all I taught, was all I understood. And for you, that's healing for you. You can understand that you didn't know any better, or even as an adult, you can understand that you just had so much darkness. That is your healing. But you can apologize to other people, and this is another thing that I've had to come to terms with, and I understand deeply. You can apologize for other people, but they have every right to not take your apology. They have every right to their own healing process. Like, we can't tell them, like, hey, I was just a kid, or hey, I did this, please understand. It's, you tell yourself that to forgive yourself, because now like, hey, I didn't know any better. But for others, all you can do is say, like, you know what, I'm sorry, I've grown a lot, I've understood, my actions and how I hurt you, and I would never do that again, and I hope you can see the change in me. And honestly, it's up to them if they want to forgive you. It truly is. For whatever it is, you are not in control of other people's forgiveness towards you, other people's healing journey. You're only in control of your own. And so forgiving yourself, even if others don't forgive you or are trying or can't, that is a total, I guess, depth concept. I don't even know how to explain it. That's what self-forgiveness is, I suppose. Is knowing that you forgive yourself and you understand yourself on a deep level, and you understand, you are so aware of why you did the things that you did. And even if we are aware, that doesn't mean it was okay. We put in the work to change. We put in the work to be better, and we acknowledge that. But at one point we did hurt others. But I acknowledge why I hurt others, and now I know that that wasn't okay, and I'm not going to do it ever again. And yeah, self-forgiveness is very, very difficult and brave. So for those who are going through that, we're all brave, but it's a very courageous, brave thing to do. I feel like that's the depths of your shadows, to sit with the actions that you've done to hurt others. I feel like that's as deep as it goes when it comes to shadow work, because it's hard, man. Nobody wants to admit that they hurt people. We want to sit back and say people hurt us, which they do, but hurt people, sometimes hurt others and project. And it was a complicated for me to understand, because although I was hurt, like they say, hurt people, but hurt people also try not to hurt people, and that was me. I was always aware of people's emotions. I never wanted to hurt somebody. I cared too much. I wanted people to love me. I wanted to love. But then, in the midst of that, my hurt would come out still. And it's like, fuck. Even though you're trying, it's still there. And yeah, self-forgiveness is a very complicated, hard thing to do. It's super deep. And it's, a lot of people don't want to go through that because you don't want to admit that you've hurt others. And I sit here and I'm trying to be as honest as possible, because I do believe, I know why, my highest self, my soul chose this life. I understand fully. I got in touch with I know why I chose a life of this, of hardships, so I can sit here, like, you guys know that. And I do believe that I'm an example of what true raw healing is. And I don't ever want to fake it. Like, even though it's been almost 9 years on this journey, and I'm happy, and the reason why I'm here sitting with you guys is because the universe finally decided, like, you're ready, you graduated, you're not healing anymore. And even though that is, like, I'm in the happiest I could ever be and the most aware, there are times, and as I always say this, there are times where emotions come up and I get triggered and I have to work on them, but I'm now doing it in a healthy way where I'm not hurting others, right? And so I want to do my best to be open and raw and show you the human experience, what healing is, because toxic positivity is it's going to do you more harm than good. And I honestly do believe we're always going to experience emotions. As a soul, you wanted to experience the entire spectrum of your emotions. So it's not like once you do the inner work, they're going to shut off. It's just you're aware and you now can handle your stuff in a very healthy way now without projecting and hurting others. And so I come on here and I try my best to be as honest as possible. Obviously, there are things that I don't speak about, but I mean on my journey, on my journey. Everything's what I've experienced, because I do believe I'm an example of that. And I've always been somebody who was able to speak up even when I was younger. I through the abuse, it was me being the eldest daughter, and I had no fear. I would always speak up, and I would always get in it turned violent, but it's because I was protecting myself. Like I always spoke up. And even growing, I was just never embarrassed, I guess. Just me as an individual, I've just always done my own thing, and I do believe that was a characteristic that I have, that I chose to have, so I can do this, so I can sit here and speak and use my voice. So yeah, I know when it comes to self-forgiveness, a lot of us don't want to sit with that shadow, because that shadow might make us feel like we are a bad person, like we've done bad things. But the thing is that we've done things that we're not proud of, but that doesn't mean we're bad people. You, on your journey and trying to be better and feeling guilty for how you acted, is showing you that, okay, you actually do care. You are actually a person who's trying to better yourself. You are a good person. And the thing is that we're just humans. We're humans, and no one gives us a guide how to do this. And just because you've hurt people and you projected your insecurities, or you projected your harm, doesn't mean you're a bad person. Yeah, we probably shouldn't be hurting people. But when it comes to that sense, that we're not bad people. There are people who do a lot worse things. A lot worse things than that. I think when it just comes to healing and hurt, we just don't know how to do it. And no one teaches us, and the shadow just overcasts our light, and the light's still there. We just have to find our way back to it. And yeah, you're a good person who just is hurt, who's hurting. That's how I see it. But that is not an excuse to hurt people more. Be like, I'm not a bad person. Like, no, we shouldn't be hurting people, right? But understanding that you're trying helps you move forward. Because if you're going to sit in a hole and continue to think, I'm a bad person, it's just going to fuck you up, and you're going to go into a deeper hole. So you have to talk to yourself kindly, and you have to become aware, and you have to know that you are trying to better yourself, and you have to give yourself grace. And other people might be like, oh, you're a bad person because you did this, right? But you know that you're trying. You know that you're trying. So keep trying, my love. And like I said, there are people who are bad people, who do some crazy ass shit. And when it comes to healing and, all of this, we're just humans. We're people who make mistakes. And that's what it is. And there's no excuse to keep making those mistakes. But we're people who make mistakes, and that's the truth. And it's such a complicated concept to understand, because I do believe all of this, two things could exist at once. And it's just... It's a mind-boggling understanding of all of this. I don't know how to explain it, but when you do the inner work and you raise your frequency, you do get to understand it on a deeper level. And you'll know when you know, because there's no words to put into explanation how to understand these things, but slowly, while doing the inner work, you'll realize it, and you'll be like, oh, it'll click, and you'll know when you get there, and you're like, okay, this makes sense. I understand now why this and this and this is that. I understand how two things can exist at once. I get it now. Although that doesn't give us, like I always say, that doesn't give us an excuse to keep doing it. You can understand. And that's another thing, is that healing just helps you understand everything you've done, everything around you. And also when you forgive yourself, you really learn empathy, true empathy for you, and true empathy for others. Because working through these emotions and digging deep into how you've hurt others, you really get in touch with your soul and yourself on a deeper level, and you start thinking from a higher self perspective. And it just naturally happens, because you can sit here and say, yes, I did this, But then your higher self taps in and says, you know what, you're trying though, you're human. You've done that, but what have you learned? How have you grown from this? And it's just, you just get in touch with yourself on a deep, deep level, and the empathy you have for yourself. And naturally, self-love grows with it too when you forgive yourself. And yeah, but forgiving yourself doesn't mean to keep hurting people. You know what I mean? Like, hurt people and then forgive, hurt people and forgive. No, it's just when you're on this healing journey and you come to a place to where you don't resonate with who you used to be, there is self-forgiveness that comes, because you're just, you're ignoring a part of yourself. And I do believe healing in the whole aspect of it includes facing that shadow part, that deep, deep shadow part of how we've hurt people. And be gentle with yourself when you're doing this, because look, I got a text message. Who's texting me right now? I don't talk to anybody. Watch, it's gonna be like Uber Eats or something, you guys. Oh no, it's actually a friend. A friend? Who has friends? No. No, but it was a, oh my god, Fashion Nova. I haven't shopped at Fashion Nova in a cool minute, but I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, back on topic. But what was I saying? Oh, see, when I get interruptions like this, I totally forget what I was saying. But yeah, it digging deep into who you are takes a lot of work. So be gentle and take your time. There's no time frame to this, and know that, you know, even if you feel, it's okay to feel guilty, it's okay to feel shame, it's okay to feel these things. The whole purpose is working through that, to see yourself and understand yourself with empathy from a higher perspective, and understand why you've done what you've done, why everything you went through, what the way that it planned out, like why your actions were reflecting that way. And then you can understand how you've grown from them. And that's the beauty of self-forgiveness, is that you can see how you have reacted different, how you have grown, and you can give yourself some grace and empathy and know that, like, okay, I'm not going to hurt people like this anymore. I've grown from this. And so when you work through those dark emotions, and when you work through that shame and guilt, and when you've come on the other side of it and faced it forward, all the darkness and all the sadness and all the hurt, because it hurts to fucking face the things that you've done to people. When you come out of that and you've forgiven yourself and you've apologized to those that you've hurt, and you know, you understand that their process is their process, and you've forgiven yourself. You don't need people to forgive you. If you try your best to apologize, you forgive yourself, right? And once you overcome that, you need to take a step back and actually congratulate yourself, because it's hard. It is hard. Like, this is one of the hardest things to do. It is incredibly hard. There's a lot. Healing is hard in general, but it's deep into those emotions. So yeah, you need to give yourself some grace and congratulate yourself once you've done that, because it's you've climbed the steep hill, you know, to overcome all of that. And yeah, I feel like self-forgiveness, for me at least, was one of the last steps that I needed to do, because it was just so dark. Oh, I guess because my past was so dark, but it was just so dark because I had so much anger inside of me. And yeah, yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today, because I feel like, and the thing is that right after I made that video, the one that I posted on Monday, I meditated and I asked my spirit guides what I need to talk about, and self-forgiveness has been floating in my head for a long time. And I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And then a minute later, I had saw a post. Look, I took a screenshot of it. Let me show you what it says. I had saw a post specifically talking about forgiving yourself. And I had thought, I was like, okay, this is 100% validation that I need to talk about this. And okay, I found it. It says, the real flex is forgiving yourself for things you did before you knew better. As you grow, you'll see things you did that the healed you wouldn't do. No one's perfect, so forgive yourself as you continue to improve so you can move on. Ooh, that's self-forgiveness, so you can move on. It helps you move forward for sure. And I saw it like a minute after I said that I was going to make a video, and I was like, I need to talk about this, because I felt that really deeply. And yeah, so, and I need to be open and raw. And you know, we've all been there. We were all unhealed at one point and hurt others, projected, whether it was just like a snide comment, you know what I mean? We've all done that. So yeah, that's it. I hope that my video finds you all good, and I hope that you enjoy this. I think the next video I'm gonna make is just maybe more fun video, something about myself, just so we can keep stuff lighthearted and then serious and lighthearted and then serious. So, yeah, I love you guys, and I hope you all have an amazing day today. I will see you all next video on Monday. Have an amazing weekend, everybody. Bye, my loves.